This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good night, Shabbos. Rabbi said Parsha Shoftim. We're going to go all the way to the end of the Parsha. Now, Parsha Shoftim is one of the neglected Parshas because it often falls out at the end of the summer, and people are doing their thing at the end of the summer. And certainly the end of Parsha Shoftim is certainly sometimes overlooked. I want to examine, just for a short while, the inyan of the Eglah Arufa, the axed heifer. Okay? The axed heifer. That's what we're going to examine at the end of this week's Torah portion in your Bibles. Okay? So, Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Aleph, Ki yimatzei cholav ba'adama. Just going to read the psukim very quickly. If you find a corpse in the earth, Asher Hashem lekecha noisein l'chol harisha, Hashem gave you to inherit, noifel ba'asada, fallen in the field, lo noida mihi kol, you don't know who the murderer is. V'yatzu zekeinecha v'shoiftecha, so the elders and the judges, they go out, umadadu, and they measure el ha'arim, to the cities asher svivo sechalo, that surround the slain. V'haya ha'ira kroiva l'chalo, the closest city. So we put responsibility on the closest city. V'lakchu ziknei ha'ira hi, the elders of that city take Eglah bakar, a calf, asher loy ubadba, that was never worked, asher loy mashcha be'oil, that did not pull a yoke. So an unworked calf. They take him down to a harsh valley. By the way, harsh means hard. It was a valley that was never plowed. It's an untapped resource. By the way, Rav Chaim Kanievsky wrote a whole sefer on Hilchos Eglah Arufa, a massive sefer on the laws of Eglah Arufa. If you see it and you appreciate what went, this is a halacha we don't do anymore. He wrote a major sefer on Eglah Arufa. The name of the sefer is Nachal Esan. That's the name of the sefer. Asher lo yeyaved ba. Now, what does that mean? Asher lo yeyaved ba. That work has not been done. V'lo yizareya, and which was not
or it can't be. It's so full of rocks that it can't be worked.
It cannot be worked and cannot be planted. The Arufa shamas Eglah, and they hatch it, they axe off the calf, Banochal in the valley. The Nigishu HaKohanim B'nei Levi. Then the Kohanim approach. Why the Kohanim? Kivam Bachar Hashem Lekecha. Because God selected them, L'sharsai, to serve Him, U'levarich B'Shem Hashem, to bless Him, V'alpiyam Yeh, and through them will be Koriv V'chol Naga, every argument and every nega. By the way, the Gra says this pasuk alludes to the 5 jobs that a Kohen has. The L'sharsai, L'varich B'Shem Hashem, L'sharsai is the Avodah, L'varich B'Shem Hashem is the Berchas Kohanim, V'alpiyam Yeh Koriv, that's certain dinim, v'chol naga, dinei tzaras. The Gra finds in this pasuk a remes of the various tasks of the kohen. V'chol ziknei ha'ir hahi, and all the elders, hakroivim el hacholol, that are close to the slain. In other words, the elders of that city, yirchatzus yadayim, they wash their hands. Al ha'eglah, on the calf, Arufa v'anocha, which is slain, which is hatcheted in the valley. V'anu amru, and they answer, they talk up and they say, we are not the murderers. Yadenu lo shafchu es hadam hazeh. We did not murder this person. Our hands did not spill his blood.
This could be hundreds of miles away from where the mace was from.
Yes.
So this person is not there. So what are they talking about, this person? Are they going to bring the body with them?
This is Eglah.
No, es hadam hazeh, in other words, his blood. His blood. Which Rashi means, what do you mean they didn't murder him? Well, we think that the Gedolei Hadar, imagine if you find somebody in the middle of the desert, the closest city is 100 miles away, and the rabbis of that city come and say, we didn't kill him. Like what? I mean, we really think they did kill him? So the Chazal say it means he wasn't here because, and we didn't let him go without escorting him. Because if they would not have escorted him, then it would be considered as if they did kill him. Because escorting provides a certain shmirah. Kaper la'amcha Yisrael, Ribbono Shel Olam, forgive and atone for your nation. Klal Yisrael asher padisa Hashem, that Hashem you redeemed. V'al titein dam naki, do not hold accountable innocent blood. B'karv amcha Yisrael. V'nikaper lohem hadam, and then the blood will be atoned. V'ata, but you Ribbono Shel Olam, tavar hadam anaki mikarbecha, remove the innocent blood. Kisasa hayasha beina Hashem, when you do what is right in the eyes of Hashem. So the question is, what exactly is this procedure? What's going on over here? What are we trying to accomplish? What's this all about? Why do we make such a big deal? I mean, bottom line is, we don't really think the rabbis killed the guy. I mean, if you think the rabbis are the closest city, now it's one thing if you want to take the hooligans of the closest city and let them, make a declaration. Look, we didn't kill them. But now we're like indicting the rabbis. All of a sudden, the rabbis say, "Look, we're not responsible." Like
he didn't pay his dues.
Oh, you're taking it very serious.
All right, that is an important thing to pay the dues, but but let's try to understand what exactly is this procedure over here.
That's not he is killed or he is found.
He's found dead.
So how do you
Yes,
show
he
it?
was.
Because if someone didn't kill him, then he wouldn't be dead.
That's very good.
What? Well, maybe he died of a heart attack, you mean?
It's obviously.
No. Chalal means slain. The word chalal means, this is not like, he wasn't ill.
Natural causes.
Right.
He's got the knife sticking out of his back.
Okay.
Yeah, it's talking about a case where the person was killed. You mean, maybe, so we know, we have the evidence. Okay? Let's see the Sefer HaChinuch. Sefer HaChinuch says, Shenitztavinu, this is mitzvah Taf Kuf Lamed. Shenitztavinu ba'arifas Eglah benachal Esan. Perush Esan. What does it mean, Esan? Shememav Shoftim b'chazaka. It doesn't just mean a valley, it means a river. And the river has to flow strong. Not one of these rivers in the Catskills that as soon as, they only last maybe a day after it rains. No, this is a powerful river. Ve'inyan hamitzvahu kishenimsa b'sada, when you find in the field, someone who is killed. We don't know who the murderer was, like the pasuk says.
Where is there a powerful river right next to a desert?
Why does it say?
In the Arufah.
Uninhabited.
So now we're talking about the river?
Where do we find it? Apparently in Eretz Yisrael.
In Eretz Yisrael, in the Arufah, every year you find people who die in the desert.
What, from flash floods?
Rainstorms come and the raging rivers develop because the ground doesn't absorb the water.
Yeah.
It's so dry.
I don't know. By the way, Nachal Esan, according to Rashi, means a land that's so hard that it cannot be worked. According to the Sefer HaChinuch, who's quoting the Rambam, Nachal Esan means a powerful river. It's a big machlokes.
So what do you do inside the river?
You shech the cow, I guess the blood spills in the river. You take it, the site of this procedure is a river. So now it says the Sefer HaChinuch.
River or riverbed?
It's a river. Mishar shei mitzvah, the root of the mitzvah. In other words, what's this whole procedure? It's like all of a sudden, I understand you make Kiddush Friday night. You want to make a ceremony out of the sanctification of Shabbos. It's a very beautiful thing. A lot of people's hearts are stirred to the sanctity of Shabbos by making Kiddush. You want to make a Havdalah ritual, very nice. You want to make a ritual out of Lulav and Esther, but why are you making a ritual out of the fact that a guy was killed? Now we'll say, I know Judaism is about rituals, but now we're making a ritual out of killing people?
No, they didn't kill him. They found him dead.
Yeah, so now all of a sudden, this is like a big Indian in Judaism. When people die, we make a whole hocus pocus now. What is this all about? Yeah? Is it cater, right? We're going to have... Whether you're going to start selling things now and gift the world of different things you could buy your friend when they find somebody killed. Where are you going? I have an occasion. What? Bar mitzvah? No. Someone was killed in the desert.
Don't they have to bury him first?
Maybe he was buried. This is the Eglah.
What's the purpose of it? So the Rambam says, let's focus on this. Kadesh yisayir leiv kol ha'am. The reason for the ritual is to inspire the people, not to inspire, to wake them up. When they see this whole ritual, they see all the rabbis coming together, all the rabbanim, all the gedolim, and they take a para, which is a behema gedola. They're not taking a little sheep; they're taking a big cow. And as they're trying to schlep the cow, moo! And all the rabbis are surrounded. Can you imagine 50 rabbanim schlepping a cow? All of a sudden, it's going to make a big commotion. V'yelchu ba'asifa. They're going to go with big fanfare of a hamoin. Shahakol chafetzim lirois and yanam ela al michotza. Everybody's going to want to see it. And you're going to shech the cow, and the cow's going to scream. Everyone's going to be frightened, and everyone's going to be stirred. And anybody who knows any information is going to come and tell the rabbis, guess what? I'll tell you the truth. I know who the murderer is. The purpose of the ritual is to find out who the murderer is. That's what V'chol hayodea b'davar miyad yemel avava, his heart will be stirred. V'tar machshavtai, and his thoughts will waken up. Lahagid, to speak. Mashu yodea l'fnei hazakenim. Umitach kach yivaru hara. It's not just a tefillah, God remove the evil. We're trying to make a commotion because we want the word to spread that someone was killed. It's a nice way of saying, if anybody knows anything about the circumstances of this murder, come and tell us now, and we'll see why they'll be motivated to do that. U'melvad hayediyah, besides it's not just a matter of putting to rest the murder. It's not just a matter of we want to know who the murderer is. Says the Sefer HaChinuch, the purpose is that we want everybody to know that when someone kills someone, we're going to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to kill the guy in Bezdin. And this is a deterrent to make sure something like this doesn't happen.
How can you kill the guy in Bezdin? He has no witnesses.
What? So the purpose is maybe there are witnesses, but they're not coming forward. And that's, by the way, the Sefer HaChinuch, who usually follows the opinion of the Rambam, is in this case quoting the Rambam, not in the Yad HaChazaka. This comes from the Rambam in the Mar Nevuchim. That the purpose of this ceremony is to make a big deal about what happened in order to find the murderer. Now, if you look up the Rambam in the Mar Nevuchim, we find more information about that. So if you look at number 2, the Rambam in the Mar Nevuchim can be found in Chelek Gimel Perek Mem. The Rambam quotes everything we just read, so we're not going to read the first part because the Sefer HaChinuch quoted it. But if you look on the second column, Hinei Nizbayar, Ki Toyeles Eglah Arufa Hi Giloy HaHaray. The purpose of Eglah Arufa is to try to discover the murderer. Ulechizuk inyan zeh, to strengthen this, Shehamakoyim asher taroif boi ha'eglah lo yeyavei boi v'lo yizar la'olam. Now we're learning a new machlekes. Rashi learns that the land that they shech the Eglah Arufa is lo yeyavei boi v'lo yizareya. What does that mean? Yeah. The Heilige Stone Chumash teaches that. What does it mean? Lo ye'avid v'lo yizareya.
Not work.
Cannot be worked and cannot be sown. Says the Rambam, no, where did the Stone Chumash get that from? I argue on the Stone Chumash, says the Rambam. Lo ye'avid means it will not be worked. It's a punishment. That if you're going to have to shech the Eglah Arufa, this real estate can never be used again. And the owner of the real estate is going to say, wait a second, you're telling me that if we don't find the murderer now and you shech this cow, I bought this piece of land for $1 million. Wait a second, give me a day, I'll get to the bottom, I'll find out who the murderer is. The Rambam learned 2 chidushim. Chidush number 1 is he argues on the Stone Chumash. Yeah, he takes it on his shoulders to argue on the Stone Chumash and to say, Lo ye'aved v'lo yismech, doesn't mean it was not worked, it means it can no longer ever be worked again. And the reason is the owner of the real estate, knowing that his big investment will go down the drain, will not rest until he finds the murderer. So that that's a big chiddush that you might not get by reading your friendly Shul Chumash. Okay?
Not ever used again, could it be used again for another regular roofa?
No, it's
not
gone.
For another regular roofa.
It's out. In fact, the Mefarshim ask, how could you work anywhere in Eretz Yisrael? Suffolk, it might have been a makom that they shechted the Eglah Arufa.
Why don't we make it the responsibility of the Sanhedrin to find the murderer? You're going to make it the achrayus of a real estate guy? Who, if he wants to...
The answer is, because you could make it their achrayus, but why are they going to... Look, Stam, you can go to a rabbi, find the murderer. I said, no problem, I'll put it on my list. Why? But who says you're going to find it? You tell a guy you're going to lose your house if you don't find the murderer, I guarantee you he'll find the murderer.
once they've done
find
this, it's
somebody
too late.
and it's not the murderer because they don't want to lose the money.
Okay, that's what the Rambam says.
No, but once they check this
Yeah.
the cow, then finding the murderer is not going to make his land usable again. It's never usable again.
The guy will make sure they don't shech the cow. That's the purpose of
You get there before they.
Yeah. In other words, it's a
He
motivation
wants to
to
hand
make.
them off.
It's a motivation to make sure the murderer is found. Okay? Comes Targum Yonasan ben Uziel, and he says there's a little bit of help from heaven to find the murderer, and the help does not come in the guise of the owner of the real estate, and it doesn't come in the guise of the Sanhedrin. It comes from little helpers. Let's see what this means. Says the Targum Yonasan on Pasuk Ches. Says Targum Yonasan, Kahanaya Yemron, the Kohanim say, Kaper la'amach Yisrael, atone for the Jewish people. Tifrak da Hashem, that God redeemed v'lois shavei choivas Adam Zakai, b'goy amach Yisrael. Do not put the guilt of an innocent person on the nation Israel. Ugilei min katlei. Ugilei man katlei. And then the Kohanim pray, reveal who the murderer is. The Yiskaper l'hain al dema. Kohanim, according to Targum Yonasan Maziel, they offer the following prayer: Ribbono shel olam, please reveal to us who the murderer is. And what happens? Umin yad nafkin nechil demayranin. And from there, it emanates a swarm of worms. Migai parasa, from that cow, the Eglah, nagdin, ba'azlin, ad asra de katayla saman. The worms, the swarm of worms, then start crawling out of the cow, and they go to the house of the murderer. V'salkin aloi, and they go up into him. V'achtin beidino yaseh, and then the bezin grabs the guy. V'dainin yaseh, and they judge him.
Why do the worms just take care of him?
You hear this?
Worms are giving anus now?
Says the Targum Yonasan. Now, where he gets it from the pasuk? It says the Kohanim pray to God, please reveal to us the murderer. Whereupon a swarm of worms, also not going to see this in your friendly Chumash. A swarm of worms comes out of the cow, crawls to the murderer. I don't know if they're pointing at him or they're hissing at him, but the Bezdin, you can imagine all the Rabbanan, they're following, they're looking down on the ground, what are you doing? We're just following the worms, and the worms, the rabbis knock on the house, no one's home. The worms crawl under the door, and they surround the guy, and then they apprehend the criminal. By the way, Rabbeinu Bechaye also brings down this pshat. He says, Vishamati Kim benivlas guf ha'eglah, out of the corpse of the eglah, nases toilas. He says it happens naturally, where the dead body of the cow turns into worms. B'derech hateva, shahoylech, v'hoyreg ha'retzech, it goes and kills the retzech, ba'ashar husham. V'hinei zeh me'atzilus sar hanachal. This is from the sanctity and subtlety of the officer of the valley, whatever that means. V'hi minifloi sisrei hateva. This is one of the secrets of nature. That from this cow, the cow turns into worms, and the worms find the criminal. By the way, you know who else makes mentions of this? The Rikanti. Rikanti, I believe, is one of the Rishonim. The Lavush wrote a Perish on the Rikanti. We'll go to number 6 for a moment. Rikanti is one of the Kabbalistic works on the Chumash, and he says, V'shamati remez l'davar. You want to know where the Targum Yonasan got this from? You want to know a remez in the pasuk to the worms? V'ata tivayer hadam hanaki, and you will eliminate the innocent blood. Soifei tevais rima. You take the last letter. V'ata is a hey, tivayer is a resh, hadam is a mem, hina hanaki is a yud. Soifei tevais rima. Let's go back to the Shlach HaKadosh. Look at number 5. The Inyan Eglah Arufa hu gam kein chesed. The Eglah Arufa is a kindness. Ki hu yikra de shechvi. It's honor to the dead. V'yikra de chay, an honor to the life. How is it honor to the dead? Because through this procedure, maybe we'll find the murderer. And then the Shlach HaKadosh quotes Rabbi Menachem that we act the Eglah in the Nachal Esan. The reason is, like the Rambam says in Mar Nevuchim, that by publicizing the murder, By publicizing the murder, we'll try to discover the murderer. And then the Shla adds, "V'chasher hoya hadar zakai." This didn't always happen, says the Shla. When the generation was worthy, hayu yoitzim in apara tailaim. From the cow would emanate worms. So the Shla is saying an added chiddush. This didn't always happen. In other words, if we did this today, this may not happen. It was only a darsh, a zakai. They would go to the house of the Ritzach. So now the Shla asks the obvious question. I don't understand, says the Shla. A guy's machalo Shabbos, so we kill him in Bezdin, we need 2 Eidim. A guy who commits adultery, we need 2 Eidim. And a guy who's a murderer all of a sudden is judged not by Eidim but by worms? Since when do we use circumstantial evidence in Bezdin, right? We don't use circumstantial evidence. We throw out circumstantial. All of a sudden we're going to kill a guy based on worms? It's a stark akasha.
It's obviously Nesman Shemayim,
so,
but the worms go to this particular place.
If a guy murders and a bas kol comes out from heaven and says he's the murderer, what do you do? What do you do to the guy? You give him shlishi next Shabbos. I don't know. Maybe you don't have to give him shlishi, but Rabbi, you give him glila maybe. But you don't follow about. You don't follow miracles. So the Shla says you're right. You don't do anything to him based on the worms, but.
So why would Baskel come up? They know you don't follow.
So he says he's going to be embarrassed because look, everyone's going to know he's the murderer. So what if he's embarrassed? Either that's a deterrent, or now that we know who it is, now we could try to see if they're Eidim. But the Shla says, in fact, that we don't actually listen. It's not like instead of using 2 Eidim, we use a few worms. It's the worms are. Now we know who the murderer is. Now nobody's going to do business with him. No one's going to look at him. But we don't actually follow this as a halachic ability to kill him. And then the Shla very interestingly quotes the Zohar HaKadosh.
Unless he admits.
No,
You can't admit.
doesn't do anything. You still give him shlishi. Yeah. It says
You can't confess to base.
right. Ain't other mason that's my Russia. Ain't other mason. Okay. Now the Shla says, by the way, this is honor to the living, because the Zohar says the very interesting thing that normally a person could only die through a malach hamaves, but now that there is a murderer, a Baal V'chira, could kill someone even without the malach hamaves. So the malach hamaves is very upset. You took away my job. Only I could kill someone, and now you became a malach hamaves. So the malach hamaves gets jealous, and now he wants to take action. So it creates a certain kitrug, and we need to put him to rest. And this procedure of the Eglah Arufa somehow mitigates the kitrug of the malach hamaves. Okay. Look in just 2 more Maramakomis I want you to take a look at. The Paneach Raza, by the way, Paneach Raza was on the Rishonim by the name of Rabbeinu Yitzchak. Rabbeinu Yitzchak called the name of the Sefer Paneach Raza because the gematria of Yitzchak is what? 208. The gematria of Paneach is 208. And the gematria of Raza is 208. The Chida writes in the Shem HaGdolim about the Hashgacha Pratis of the Paneach Raza, because little did he know that ultimately, who would write Hagois on the Paneach Raza? The son-in-law of the Maral Prague, whose name was also Yitzchak. So it comes out, it's a good thing. Paneach, which is 208, is for the author, and Raza, which is 208, was for the one who wrote the footnotes on it. So he brings down Nachal Esan, Shehu Kasha, which is hard. Lermais al Davar Kasha. It alludes to a hard thing. The Hainu, that is, if we don't find the murder, the worms come out of the nerag. Very interesting. Differently than the Targum Yonis and Rabbeinu Mechai. He learns the worms come out of the one who was killed. And it enters the murderer, and the worms knock him off.
What do you need the Eglah Arufa for? You got these worms doing the work for you.
When you do the Eglah Arufa, that activates the worms. Okay? So this is an interesting thing. According to Paneach Raza, you see a chidush, the worms come out of the person who was killed, And like you suggest, why don't we just, the worms kill him? Taka, the worms kill him.
How do you travel?
What?
If the guy's overseas. How do you
Travel? Eged bus. There are different ways.
No,
The
but
worms
if the
get
guy's
there.
overseas.
Skateboard, scooter. Different ways they get there. What?
Go back to it.
If it happens in Eretz Yisrael.
What?
This is in Eretz Yisrael.
But it's after you escape, go to a different country.
Oh, if he goes to a different country? The guy eats an apple, the worms go in the apple, and I don't know. They make it there. The remez is, V'ata tevar hadam anoki soifei tevois rima. Now, says the Harechraz of a dafkel of a soifim loy nimsa haregia iruvato mazeh kach shesaru mehanerag laharek haniska. This is only if you don't find the murderer.
This is the last resort.
In other words, why does this in the soifah? Kasha is, we know there's a remez in the soifei tevois. V'ata tevar hadam anoki. Why is a remez in the soifei tevois? Why isn't a remez in the rashi tevois? The answer is because this is not option one. Option one is let's find the murderer. This is the last resort. And that's why the remez is in the soifei tevois.
Wow.
And why is it shaloi keseder? Because the worms do not march in order. It's a whole mix. It's a whole mishkabala. So that's why the remez is in shaloi keseder.
Why is there a yud in Rima?
Why?
Yeah, because Rima is Reish Mem Hey, without a yud.
This kind of rima has a yud. Yeah, this kind of rima has it. And he says another reason why it's mixed up is because soif enoish rima. Every man in the end gets the rima. That's why the rima are alluded to besoif. Now, Haneach Raza brings another opinion that there are other Rishonim say that the Tailam come from the Eglah itself, like we saw in Rabbeinu Bechaye, and we saw in the Tam Yonasan Ben Uziel, and this is also alluded to. It says Es HaEglah. The gematria of Es HaEglah is Taila'ah, worms. So that's another remez that it comes from the Eglah. Okay, so various ramazim over here. And then the Paneach Raza says something very interesting. That both are true. They could come from the Eglah, and they could come from the Nerag. How is that? He says, L'daiti tarvayu isnahu. My opinion is they're both true. Dahainu, kiyimsa achakach, v'yasu by kamishbat. If you find the murderer, then they come out of the Eglah. But if they don't make the Eglah, then they come out the person who is murdered. So it might both be true. They're both, the worms have two options, which they may take advantage of. The worms do not like to be tied down to only one way of doing this. They like to keep their options open, either to come out of the Eglah or to come out of the Nerag. Okay.
Depending on what again, how?
What?
Depending on
If they find the murderer, then by shachting the Eglah, then it comes out of the Eglah. But if they don't make an Eglah, then for whatever reason they don't make this procedure, it will come out of the Nerag. Okay?
Isn't the Eglah also a chayk?
Yeah.
So why do you both guess why?
Yeah, but most people don't like that answer, so I'm giving you this answer. Mo, you could say chayk to anything. The Rambam says, "Aflapi shetkias hashayfer is chayk." Remez yesh b'davar. Every mitzvah could be a chayk, but every mitzvah also has ta'amim. Even the Rambam says, "Aflapi shetkias hashayfer chayk." It's a chayk. Tkias hashayfer is a chayk because really many mitzvahs, even the ones that the reason is obvious, the Rambam considers a chayk. Okay, let's just do one more Maramakum over here. The Ben Yoyada says, a Masechta Saita, he quotes the Marsha, who says the same thing as the Rambam, that the purpose of this procedure is in order to discover the murderer. This is to soften people's hearts, maybe to confess. Says the Ben Yoyada, who is written by the Ben Ishchai, look at the fourth line, number 8. V'nirali lekach nikreis Eglah. This is why it's called an Eglah. Oisiois ayin gale. Eglah are the letters ayin gale, which means the eye that sees or the eye that knows should reveal the matter to Bezdin, to say who the murderer is. U'lachein maviyin ha'eglah b'nachal. Why do we bring the Eglah to a valley? Ki mispar Eglah, the gematria of the word Eglah. U'mispar nachal, and the gematria of the word nachal is koitz, is a thorn. This will be like a thorn in the sides of people in order to speak, in order to tell. Or, says Ben Yehuda, this fits in very well with the Targum Yonasan and Ben Uziel, that the worms emanate from the Eglah, and they go to the murderer, le'aktzai, to thorn him. And then, says Ben Yehuda, Eglah is gematria Gehenim, that if you do this procedure, you are nitzel from Gehenim. And therefore we'll end up the shiur on a good note. Hopefully all of us who came to shiur today will also be nitzel from that place, and we should all be zoichel l'chaye olam haba.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.